Welcome back, everybody. I have a confession to make. In thinking about doing this interview, I thought we're going to have to extend this show to 2 hours because the subject is so interesting. I mentioned frequently how taken I am with the vibrancy of the art community in the Saratoga, Warren, and Washington region. And I think nothing is a better example than the Hyde Collection in Glens Falls. Here, sitting right in the heart of our community, is one of the most impressive arts organizations in the country. Joining me today is Erin Coe, who is the director of the Hyde Collection. Welcome, Erin.
Great to be here.
Oh, it's even better to have you here.
Thank you.
Again, there's so much that we could talk about. Let's assume that somebody's been living under a rock for the last 50 years. The Hyde Collection is a collection of art, a museum right in the heart of Glens Falls, correct?
Yes, close to downtown, off of Warren Street. Founded by Charlotte Hyde in 1952. We've been open to the public since her death in 1963. And it's a combination of her home.
Right.
Okay, that is the foundation of the museum, the bedrock of the museum, that is full of her art collection.
That's right.
That she acquired with her husband over a half-century period of active art collecting. And it includes old masters, everything from Rembrandt to Picasso, all the way up to modern masters. And then we have strengths in American art with Winslow Homer and Thomas Eakins. Attached to the historic house, we have a modern museum wing that contains 3 galleries where we have a host of rotating exhibitions. We host about 10 or 11 exhibitions a year.
You see, the museum is so active, and once in a while you run into people. I do here in Saratoga County sometimes that don't know the museum is there.
Yeah,
which really
I do as
really
well.
surprises
I'm always
you.
surprised,
I
yes.
just want to cycle back. That family who owned the home, which is now the museum, the core of the museum, they were very successful industrialists, and they did have quite a collection. She breezed past it. But there's a Rembrandt there, there's a Picasso there, and as you move into some of the American classics, Winslow Homer.
Right.
And that's only 3 or 4 pieces of a very, very vast collection. And the wing that they built adjacent to the home is a beautiful open space, open air gallery that's had, oh my God, I can't tell you the number of shows I've seen there. But I tell you what, let's talk about the ones that are there now.
Yeah. Well, we have two great shows at the museum up for this winter.
Yes.
The first is Norman Rockwell in the 1960s. And this is an exhibition that comes to us from the Norman Rockwell Museum in Stockbridge, Massachusetts. It's one of their touring exhibitions. And it contains 21 illustrations by Norman Rockwell from the 1960s. And it explores Rockwell at a pivotal moment in his career where he was changing course. He leaves in 1963 his 47-year-long career illustrating covers for the Saturday Evening Post, and he turns his attention to works that engage with serious social issues of his day.
Right.
And he starts working for Look magazine and providing illustrations that relate to the theme of desegregation in the United States. So he becomes engaged with the civil rights movement, essentially.
Sure. Any of the viewers out there that remember the 60s, you know that was such a pivotal time in the development of our country. And Norman Rockwell, as you know, if you saw any of the illustrations he did for the Saturday Evening Post, these were the cover photography. It was video before video because his ability to tell a story in his art and his drawings were just so phenomenal. So when he took that talent and added a social element to it in the 60s, you got some pretty powerful stuff.
Very powerful works.
That's right. And what's the other exhibit?
The other exhibition actually relates to the theme of the 1960s, and it's called 60 from the 60s, Selections from the George Eastman Museum. The George Eastman Museum is the foremost museum of photography in the world.
Right, in Rochester.
In Rochester, New York, so they're good friends of ours. And they put together this amazing exhibition that looks at the 60s through the lens of 10 major photographers who really defined that decade in photography.
I've seen these photographs, and you'll recognize some of them, but also, the art of photography there is to capture the moment. And some of these, I'm thinking of the Martin Luther King one.
Right.
They're just to capture
powerful images of the civil rights movement, Vietnam, war protests, street photography, art photography. It's all there in this exhibition. It touches on really every aspect of the photographic image in the 1960s. And Jesse, let's face it, the 1960s is a decade that we think of through photographs.
That's
and illustrations.
That's right.
Something important to keep in mind, I think, is that those Norman Rockwell illustrations that we just discussed existed in magazines, the picture weeklies, like Look, alongside photographs that you see in the exhibition.
That's right.
So I really think these two shows together bring that decade to life and help visitors to really come back and engage with it, whether you live through it or not.
Well, you know what? When I started this interview, I said, again, about the vibrancy of the arts in our community. Erin said something to me before we went on the other I want to tell you. We were talking about, it's one thing that the Hyde Collection is has such a great collection of art and wonderful exhibits that come and go. But Erin, as director, has made a real, part of your vision is to really engage the community. And the reason she said is that she wants the people in the community to have a place where they can express their creativity.
Exactly.
I just think that's killer. You have a couple of examples of that, right? Tell us about the one you did with the battle.
Right. So this summer we had an exhibition of Andy Warhol up on view in one of the galleries at the museum. And one of the things I wanted to do when I came back as director was I knew I wanted a program that would engage with the idea of Andy Warhol's factory. And that was the name of his studio in New York. Right. Where artists, musicians, socialites, hipsters would get together and make collaborative art. So I wanted to do a program at the Hyde this summer that would get to the core of that. So we organized what we called a night at the factory, the art battle. And I wanted to work also with other arts organizations in our community because you know, Jesse, there's so many wonderful arts organizations, as you've been saying, in our vibrant community. So we teamed up we had 3 teams that night, 3 art teams in the art battle. One was from the Hyde, of course, and one was from Larac, and the third was from the Shirt Factory.
Right.
So these 3 teams of artists battled it out on August 13th, that night at the Hyde. And it ended up being a night where not only were they expressing their creativity, each battling out on their respective canvases, creating a work of art, but then people who attended the event were drawing. We had paper, we rolled out sheets of paper on the floor, and people who were observing the event started drawing and sketching.
Oh, you know what? It's just,
and it was just amazing.
Spectacular.
And we had 100 people there that evening. So, for a last minute event that we put together around, the pillars of my vision for the museum around accessibility and community, it really came together in a beautiful way. And I was so thrilled. And I know people who attended it really took something away from it. So.
Oh, I'm sure they did. Hey, your mission, should you choose to accept it, both these exhibits that we mentioned, the Norman Rockwell exhibit and the photography exhibit, are running until April 3rd, so you have plenty of time.
Right.
And let's face it, this time of the year, there's nothing better I can think of than to go up to the museum on an afternoon or something and just see these exhibits. They're offering classes. There are many things that we can talk about. We're going to have to talk about them.
Sure, another time. I'll come back.
I told you this was going to be a hard one to cram in.
I can see that. There's so much to talk
Erin,
about.
thank you so much. It's so nice that you're the
Jesse.
director. Your vision is contagious.
Oh, thank you. I love to hear that. And I want to see everybody at the Hyde this winter. I hope to see you there too.
You will definitely. You can count on that.
Great. I know.
Good. Nice to see you, Erin.
Nice to see you.
To see this interview again, you can head to our website, looktvonline.com.